Hi, I'm Electra Frost from Digital Playhouse Foundation. I'm an accountant. I've run my own practices since 2008. In 2022, we got a bit of a crypto accountants knowledge sharing community happening called Accountants on Chain. Digital Playhouse joined the membership of LawFi DAO, an Australian legal experiment to establish a DAO, law firms, with a practical goal of providing accessible and reliable legal information to startups and others involved with crypto and Web3 projects. As many fellow accountants may know, or members of startups, trying to access legal advice around complex crypto matters can be very expensive, still uncertain, and just not affordable for many budgets. As an accountant with clients asking tough questions of you, you might be wondering, how you can find the right information at a fraction of the cost. Reliable information from legal experts that you could pay to rely on, to at least prove that you took reasonable care in establishing your client's circumstances and advising them. So for Digital Playhouse Foundation, an incorporated member of LawFi DAO, I want to contribute to the development of the pay-to-rely model of legal advice. If you're a tax agent or advisor seeking reliable information about crypto, establishment, transactions, and dealings, this is for you. We want to know from you, what are some helpful things that you want to find out in a search for certainty on crypto, tax, and legal matters, and pay a fixed price to pay to rely, either for your practice or for multiple clients doing the same things with crypto. It could include ABN entitlement, structures, income derivation, GST, anything to help you and your clients understand this space and be compliant. So before further explaining the LawFi DAO pay-to-rely service for tax agents, let's understand first what a DAO is and the current state of play for tax and legal advisors. So I'm about to go into a long explanation. So if you're up with DAOs, please fast forward if you want to get straight down to business with LawFi DAO. Okay, so a DAO explainer. I recommend reading a very good article that I'm referring to from here on, called The Point of DAOs and Crypto Lawyers by Charles Kerrigan, published in the Butterworth's Journal of International Banking and Financial Law in December 22. Let me summarise the key points to understand from this article. Okay, Decentralised Autonomous Organisations are a novel organisational structure now common in Web3 projects. So Decentralised Autonomous Organisation, DAO, DAO. DAOs are characterised by their blockchain-based governance over decentralised networks, which are controlled by users through a set of hard-coded rules, consensus protocols. When not viewed through a legal framework, it can be described as an online group with a common purpose that has some commercial elements, or more vividly, as the author describes, a crowd with a bank account. So DAOs do not recognise international borders or the currency of nations, and are often formed by congregations of strangers who are geographically dispersed. Very modern. So I'll just digress now to how people work in a DAO. So these strangers, right, they can work together in a trustless way, meaning without needing to trust each other, because the rules of organisation are codified in self-executing smart contracts, which allows them to pool their resources and play around with new value systems using cryptographic digital currencies, crypto tokens, or DAO native tokens, which can be tied to the smart contracts. Okay, there's a lot to take on there, but the more you read and the more you listen, it sinks in and makes sense. So DAOs are typically used for Web3 projects that you might have heard of, with the members referred to as DAO contributors. Their initial participation would be, say, in a Discord server. Discord is a bit like Slack, okay, a collaboration platform. And in the Discord server or Telegram channel or whatever online collaboration platform they're using, they can perform certain tasks, bounties to earn rewards. And members with, say, for example, more than 10 hours a week could be team leaders as core contributors. They could be earning a greater proportion of the value being contributed to or generated in the DAO. So they're kind of working in the DAO to get rewarded, okay? Some people more than others. So DAOs are described as token economies because they're using tokens, crypto money, okay, with their own monetary policy and to promote their economic growth. And they issue native network tokens for voting rights. So there are different types of tokens, and some are called governance tokens. They can be purchased or they can be earned. So like token holders, those who hold those tokens, are like shareholders in a company, but they are also directors. So the ownership and the management is all in one. Token holders hold a stake in the network and they place their votes on chain when the smart contracts activate the decisions made for the organization. So the owners are active decision makers. So like Bitcoin has no CEO, right? It's decentralized. What does decentralized mean? Well, it means without any centralized control. In a DAO, there is no central leadership either. There are no company directors. All agency is removed in this flat, non-hierarchical structure. No intermediaries exist between the owners of the project and its economic activity. So that is essentially what decentralization is all about. Using technology to let people collaborate effectively without intermediaries and their associated costs. And decentralization in an organizational context means the decisions are being made from the bottom up rather than the top down. So, no board of directors that you have to trust to make good decisions and pay dividends to us. Okay, there are just owners, the token holders, using a trustless and transparent system that can pay them automatically through smart contracts based on business rules that are encoded in those smart contracts. And think about this. When you remove all the costs of agency on a profit and loss statement, like salaries, bank fees, commissions, subscriptions, all those expenses, it leaves more profit to distribute to the owners. So as an accountant, chew on that for a moment. I like that one. And that was my light bulb moment. Ooh, this could save money. So as an accountant who's been in business for a long time, maybe with some difficult partnerships or referral agreements, arrangements along the way, or if you've worked in big firms or considered going freelance, stay with me here. You'll see the benefits of DAOs when we start making them about you. And you'll make sense of the challenges too, and be part of making it work. Okay, so influencing human behavior is fundamental to the token economic design of a DAO. Okay, so those tokens, there have to be rules about how they're used. Okay, the design of how they're used, and it's based on game theory. Okay, incentives, how the tokens are used to incentivize behavior and denote ownership inside a DAO. If I do this, I get that and can have a say in that, simply put. So a basic DAO governance mechanism is, for example, one token equals one vote of governance, with an individual's voting power directly proportional to the number of tokens that they hold. So if a token holder has 2% of tokens, their vote would carry more weight on decisions than 1% token holder. And that may make use of the funds in the treasury of the project. Okay, so those decisions might be about how the what's being funded, for example, and because as a token holder you're affected by that because you have a stake in the organisation. So in summary, the design of a DAO token covers 1. Governance for decision making and enforcement, similar to shareholders' rights and company rules. Economics, it's about token economics to create incentives like share capital and currency in a company. Technology, what is being built on the blockchain, which blockchain to use, because DAOs are run over blockchains, right? That's regulation, consider whether the project's activities come under regulations. And community, whether anyone can join or if membership is by invitation or filtered by caliber or credentials. Community is important because, you see, DAOs are about like-minded people collaborating in a value chain more than anything. So now coming back to the legal and tax challenges of this article, now which is directed at crypto lawyers. However, I'm going to try and relate it to the concerns of an accountant in practice too. So we have these innovative, collaborative, new operational structures, right, with tokenomic design, white papers and governance models. But they don't fit with any of the legal entities and considerations that lawyers and advisors can explain with regard to centralised entities. And no one can clearly articulate who is legally responsible and liable in a DAO versus who should be. And that's the core policy question for lawyers, regulators and policymakers. Who's responsible? And so accountants and tax agents, right, we're usually at the front line being approached by these innovative clients and have no idea how to make their accounting records and tax affairs legally compliant when they've got a structure we're not familiar with. We're so used to being certain of the rules and applying them to sets of familiar circumstances. And crypto is such a dense fog of grey area to contend with, especially DAOs, crypto organisations, right? So they need lawyers to guide our advice to clients. When members of DAOs, sometimes they don't go to a lawyer or an accountant. They don't know anything anyway. They're just keen to get their thing started. They go in DAO first without registering a legal entity because they're, and when that happens, there are significant risks to the members because with no legal definition of a DAO, by default, where there has been no legal or structuring advice, the legal structure of a DAO is seen as like maybe a deemed partnership or unincorporated association. So immediately a problem arises for the founding members where there are more members maybe involved than a partnership or association is allowed to have under the laws of your jurisdiction. And there are distribution issues there, okay? So like who's paying tax, who's liable if something goes wrong? So our 20th century organisational structures did not anticipate DAOs. So DAO founders have to seek what are described as legal wrappers, such as a public company or a foundation or a trust, sometimes organised offshore, so they can contract with other entities along some rules of a jurisdiction and provide some protection to the managers and the members, okay, from legal liability. So the current UK government has a policy aim to become a global hub for crypto asset innovation. And so lawyers are called upon to contribute to the UK Law Commission's scoping study into DAOs, to start characterising DAOs under English law. And this work needs to be informed by a good understanding of the projects that operate as DAOs and why their members work in a DAO rather than some other structure. Why not just have a company? Okay, that'd be easy, but not where crypto is involved necessarily as the native currency of the organisation, and it's decentralised, and the structures we have are for centralised organisations. So as we know, as tax agents, the starting point for considering any legal structuring or tax treatment is ascertaining the client's circumstances and intentions. So the purpose of a DAO is the starting point. As with any new business establishment, what are the participants setting out to do? We need to know what kind of community it is. What is their aim? Are they doing something new? Is this some disruptive innovation? Or is it just a fun social gaming group? A hobby? Friends making money together? Investing together? Or is it a group of social entrepreneurs fixing a major social problem? A DAO has a unique culture with purpose. There's a really great article on Mirror.xyz called DAO Values Are More Important Than Ever by Joni Pirovich in December 2022. She wrote about the LawFi DAO's first 6 months. And she wrote, DAO builders are building for the utility of digital public goods, security, privacy, composability, and portability. Despite the volatility in price of tokens, going up and down, the values being upheld by builders are arguably more important in an increasingly digital world. Individuals crave a simpler environment to build and contribute to things that make our lives better through more transparent and secure use of technology. So there's a lot to unpack from there when you're not familiar with a DAO. But basically it's saying, trying to create a system, an organization here that works for people who are involved in the digital economy of today. Okay, that's where there is transparency and they can have privacy and all the things that we want in a digital dealings. Okay, so some basic categories of DAOs identified by the author of the article I'm referring to, Charles Kerrigan. There are, DAO operating systems, like off-the-shelf toolkits for DAO builders, plug and play. There can be protocol DAOs. These deals with matter of governance to govern a decentralized protocol. Could be for like DeFi, Uniswap, for example. Though all DAOs have some system of governance to function by. There can be investment DAOs, where members pool their funds to invest in crypto projects. Grants DAOs. These are like non-profits. They're funding projects and infrastructure. He provides the example of Gitcoin. GitHub, GitPages. Gitcoin is a software development platform where members get paid, developers get paid to develop open source software for the world. Okay? Service DAOs. That can be teams of professionals and consultants providing services to other DAOs and organizations, like LawFi DAO and Accountants DAO. What could we structure as a DAO? Maybe. Social DAOs. These are like the Bored Ape Yacht Club, those NFTs of the ape. They're membership clubs that issue an NFT as a membership card. It's like for social benefits. The members aren't building with the technology. It's just for fun and benefits. And media DAOs. They're like crypto websites, newsletters, connecting with their target market. And others like philanthropic DAOs, lobby DAOs. They might be a hybrid of these categories involving grants, investments and services too. So you can go out and find other categories of DAOs. They're being discovered and experimented with all the time. Different businesses can be running under any single one of these categories. So it's kind of hard to characterize a DAO to give it a legal personality. Look at what it's doing to know firstly, and to even rule out whether it fits within a standard legal structure, or if some alternative investment scheme or fund needs to be licensed. So the legal analysis needs to go further into the smart contracts to see how the flow of value is being created and transferred. Then to conduct a legal and tax and maybe accounting analysis across those flows. So DAOs work on the basis of their smart contracts. Smart contracts codify all the rights around the tokens and transfer them between nodes on the blockchain that the DAO is operated on. So you've got to know a little bit about how a blockchain works to understand that. And the blockchain permanently shows like the value being moved between the DAO treasury and the parties, members and providers to a contract. So the treasury funds as tokens are controlled with multi-signature wallets. So wallets aren't like, a wallet. It's not one of these. Like this is a hardware wallet, but there are kind of wallets that are used for signing, okay, with digital IDs attached to them. And some members are co-signing with these private keys that these wallets hold. So like multiple signatories to a bank transfer. So the way the community's decisions, like based on members' voting rights exercised with their governance tokens, the way those decisions are made to happen is with smart contracts. It's important to note that a smart contract code cannot be manipulated without a consensus reached through member voting as well. So the administrators themselves, they can't change anything. It's traceable on the blockchain, and smart contracts can get audited too. So you might ask, why do people want to work this way? Or why on blockchains instead of using proprietary digital platforms that have been purpose-built for doing business on? They already work for thousands, millions of small to large digital enterprises. Okay, so there are free online platforms you can do business on, earn money and collaborate, like YouTube, Google, Insta, lots of platforms out there we're used to using. So, but consider the famous phrase, if the product is free, then you are the product. So this trend to Web3 is about users wanting to own their content and be paid for their contributions to all the value that is being created online, and share ownership in the online assets and the means of production. Having a part in that, more than just, getting little bits that you might get from some of these online platforms. So everything we put out on the web, right, is attached to our identity, and our time is our most valuable asset. So the private ownership model of Web 2, Web 2 being centralized internet platforms, monetizes our time and our creations. In Web 3, it's the user-owned and more private internet where we are not unpaid content creators. We own our identity and our online assets, and we monetize it. And a DAO is an organizational model to scale that preference for a user-owned internet. And DAOs, being borderless, people from anywhere can be working together. There's no need to reveal their identity. But perhaps with KYC, AML, but they don't need to reveal their nationality necessarily, not to other members, let alone their race, gender, age, disabilities. It can be pseudonymous. I like that about what you can do in a DAO, and using technology to create and earn amongst people like yourself. Is this the future of work, the future of business? Regardless of regulation keeping up, people will do, I guess, what feels right on the internet. They'll just keep doing it. Innovation isn't waiting for regulators to enroll in blockchain diplomas. Some lawyers and accountants are, and I think the regulators might be waiting for us to kind of help them understand how to get things right for the future decentralized digital economy. So DAOs do have the potential, I guess, to become hegemonic authorities that could even rival nation states. There was a foreign policy article recently, and there was a mention of this era of great protocol politics shaped by the internet and decentralized technologies such as cryptocurrency means that we are transitioning from an age of geopolitics to one of technopolitics. Interesting. So are we seeing the state having less of a role in defining markets now, with Web3 projects being global and taking market principles into new social domains they're quite hard to regulate country by country? So if enterprise moves away from nation states to these network states, then lawmakers in jurisdictional silos may struggle to maintain relevance. So I don't know, should I rip up my international tax degree right now and start contributing to Tax DAO, writing tax policy for smart contracts with collection mechanisms to tax the contributors in the international decentralized economy of DAOs? What is that? tax DAO. I think I made that up, but I think someone might need to build it. It might be easier, who knows, to start from scratch than to keep amending our legacy economy tax legislation and tax treaties when other jurisdictions update theirs. It's definitely a challenge. So, but back to Charles Kerrigan's article. Thinking of the service DAO versus a traditional firm. Okay, I mentioned service DAOs before. They could be applied to, they could be the right choice of DAO for like a modern law firm or an accounting firm of freelancers or firms working together in a decentralized way. What is the nature of a firm, a law firm or accounting firm? It's a service provider for market transactions that relieves an individual from bearing the costs of those transactions if they were carrying out the role by themselves in the market. Okay, so, but if you remove the transaction costs, the costs of agency, do you need a firm anymore? If everything's done digitally and highly automated and the individuals are not relying on physical facilities, the software and IP innovation is reducing the cost of information and production too. So maybe traditional firms become redundant if lawyers and accountants start working together in DAOs. Interesting question, and experimentation is happening in this space. So think also about the concept of the corporation. A company, right? It's just an empty shell, a legal shell that exists through its external relationships defined by contracts and subject to law. As we understand, a business is not a thing. A business is its activities and its associations with a legal wrapper. Okay? So a DAO exists through its smart contracts for activities and associations to be governed and awaits a suitable legal wrapper. So our author refers to corporations described as vehicles to solve principal-agent problems. We've learned that DAO token holders are both the principals and the agents over different transactions because they hold both governance and ownership tokens. So that corporate description of a corporation may be legacy. So maybe the private corporation, I don't know, maybe it will be redundant one day. Conceptually, it's hard to accept that we might sacrifice proprietorship for some other kind of ownership in a DAO smart contract that's enforced by smart contracts on the blockchain. It takes a while to take that on. So this is where the crypto lawyers come in to clarify this for regulators, what all this means. It's very exciting but difficult. If we're going to completely recharacterize legal ownership and tokenize revenue flows, we need them to help us get this right. So the author defines an unusual set of capabilities required of a crypto lawyer. And I would argue that accountants and advisors working with crypto clients need to gain some proof of competency in these areas too, if they're tasked with any crypto clients. Okay, so firstly, understand the technologies. Know the difference between a public and a private proprietary blockchain, as the projects built on them will work differently. Secondly, understand the architecture of a project. Whether the rights attached to tokens might indicate taxable income, and to know your way around the business model, okay, or the tokenomic model, how the operation sort of creates and distributes value that you need to account for. Like we look at a client's business model. Here we might look at how a project is architected. You got to understand tokenomics to see the financial lay of the land of a DAO, to recognize how its token economy works, the methods by which value is being shared between the users and providers and developers, the rules around members getting paid based on their tokens and in smart contracts, and if those tokens can be exchanged for another crypto asset or for fiat money, so for dollars. Knowing how to access specialist tax advice, The tax of crypto assets is complicated enough, more so with international tax and intellectual property rights that apply to projects. So this is where the LawFi DAO project could be helpful to tax agents. Access risk management support. You got to know who to reach out to if you notice a client's project looks like it needs some due diligence on certain risk areas. Accessing technical support. So to make sense of the smart contract's impact on accounting and tax outcomes, and to make recommendations perhaps. You need to understand what the client is trying to do. Confidently talk with your client. We ask for a business plan when taking on new clients. With a DAO, you'll want to read its white paper and tokenomics documentation. And of course, knowing who your client is in relation to the DAO. What do they do? So we have to identify clients sitting in front of us, talking to us, and dealing with our firm, contracting with us. And we have director IDs as well now. So if we're sitting with a client and they're acting for a DAO or its members or developers, its funders, its token holders, who are they acting for? Are they authorized persons to deal with us on the other's behalf? Maybe a lawyer can answer that for us. So with DAOs presenting new ways of doing business in a digital economy, we have lawyers finding the way for us, and we need to keep up and learn the right questions to ask them. But those questions don't have to be hard to start with. They could be questions that you've already asked at work in your tax practice or in a group of other accountants, because your client isn't paying you, right, to spend a weekend researching on the internet for uncertain answers. There's not much on the ATO website, is there? You could pay to rely on tax lawyers' advice from LawFi DAO instead. So I'm inviting you, tax agents and accountants and advisors, bring us these questions. Let's get this DAO's business of helping you on the road. Okay, I'm going to talk now about the pay to rely service. So if you go to the LawFi DAO page and scroll down, you'll see the white paper. Download it and have a look. Now, LawFi DAO was founded by Joni Pirovich, a lawyer based in Melbourne, Australia. She's a tax expert, and she set out to use the DAO as a way of making legal services more affordable to Web3 founders. And she describes LawFi DAO as an experiment to do law differently. Members have been researching and proposing how to establish the DAO in Australia and voting on ways to go forward with this. Because in Australia, DAOs aren't recognised as legal entities, and we need to protect members from unintended legal and tax liabilities. Okay, but at the crux of LawFi DAO is a service model. One committee is developing a pay-to-rely model around legal products. This could include like a legal opinion on a token, for example. As Joni has explained, my existing law firm could be a core contributor to LawFi DAO and receive a share of ETH revenue. I don't sound anything like Joni when I say this. I'm pretending to be Joni speaking. Okay, so receive a share of ETH revenue when someone pays to rely on a legal opinion I've contributed through my firm. It is intended to be a global enabler for law firms to do law differently. Sounds pretty big. Okay, now from here on, I'm generally quoting from some of our DAO Day discussions on Fridays in 2022, which are available on YouTube for anyone to listen to. It's all open and transparent. And from the white paper on the LawFi DAO website. So please have a read through it. Go up to page 15 of the LawFi DAO white paper to read about the pay-to-rely model. So its aim is to disrupt the legal profession by making access to legal information and services more transparent and affordable. So this new model of legal service product is an experiment to test out a new global operating model for the legal profession that is as transparent and autonomous as possible and encourages legal professionals to contribute to open source policy development. Getting all minds on deck, right, to solve the problems that we face in this new digital economy. And perhaps other advisors like accountants can follow suit to contribute to policy, right? So the LawFi DAO members, they're attempting to be legally compliant while sharing information along the way of how they're designing, developing, implementing and maintaining the pay-to-rely protocol and a decentralised model of governance while achieving other purposes in the DAO's rules. Hopefully this will reveal policy gaps in existing law and provide a helpful basis for lawmakers to change law so everyone working in this space, including tax agents, can find certainty. So we're looking at different ways to do this. There may be a protocol that allows a person to deploy their pay-to-rely product, maybe as an NFT with a linked document, and the pay-to-rely product engagement letter, which for lawyers could be like the engagement letter in a cost agreement. So, getting some advice from legal professional bodies to agree on what that template needs to look like. There may be some peer review function that would let one law firm be the provider and a couple of other law firms could agree with their advice. So a percentage of payment from the customer could be split between these providers, however it's contractually done. Pay-to-rely products means information provided to third parties by suitably qualified and registered members who can rely on it. Okay, so legal products could be statements of opinion or templates. Another product is non-legal professional statements. Listen up, accountants, this is you. Such items may include statements or templates from qualified accountants about the accounting treatment of a token issuance, bespoke work papers to prepare a crypto tax return by a registered tax agent, and a bespoke information request list to prepare a crypto tax return by a registered tax agent. So accountants as LawFi DAO members can provide non-legal products as long as they hold the membership tokens and are suitably qualified and insured. So talk to us if you're interested in becoming a member. So if a person relies on a pay-to-rely product and consequently suffers some losses, whether they can make a claim against the LawFi DAO to a member or our treasury will depend on whether it was paid for, right? Pay to rely, otherwise you're not relying on it. So as accountants, I think we can have a separate session on this to really drill down into this model and understand it. And if we want to get involved by giving professional statements over the pay-to-rely protocol and get paid in ETH for it, we can discover how all that works and be part of the research. But first, let's participate in the experiment as role-playing customers, right, for the pay-to-rely product, or its first customers, as tax agents who are seeking advice to support the work we do for our clients. On behalf of Digital Playhouse Foundation, and who is the member of LawFi DAO that I'm representing, I've created a short Google form, much shorter than this talk. It'll take you as long as it takes to write down the questions that you've been perhaps asked by clients or considered, to gather your crypto, NFT, Web3, DAO related tax questions, right? What can we solve? The questions will be assigned to a member of Joni's firm, Bedazzle, to work on, and they'll see about getting some peer-reviewed consensus from some other lawyers in the tax space before publishing the advice. And they'll show us how it can work. We'll all learn together along the way. So thank you very much for listening to this session on DAOs and how accountants can get involved in LawFi DAO and support its progress. Please let me know if you have any questions. I would love to hear from you, and I look forward to seeing what you ask in our form.